We're getting deep, aren't we? Why do you think it is that you are drawn to photography in the way that you are?
It's helped that there's so many avenues that you can take within photography, and it's not stuck to just one thing. Whatever type of art you do, the more you do it, the more you understand, and the more you understand what you like.
How would you define what type of photography you do?
I personally love, it's really just the environment that I'm in. Like, I think I just dabble, you know?
Okay, let's go underwater. What is the story of Angelita? For those that haven't seen it,
With most of the video stuff I do, I have a personal allegory within the video that isn't very obvious.
if there's anything you can impart on the next generation of photographers, creators in today's algorithmic, AI-driven world, is there anything that comes to your mind that, in terms of advice and things that you've learned along the way?
For me, the advice would be,
Welcome to the Mood Podcast, uncovering the art of conversation one frame at a time. I'm your host, Matt Jacob, and thank you so much for joining me in today's conversation. And our guest today is Josiah Gordan, an exceptional creative with a wide-ranging portfolio that spans photography, filmmaking, and generally storytelling. Known for his innovative style and deep exploration of themes such as art, human connection, and nature, Josiah pushes the boundaries of visual storytelling with an approach that blends technical skill with soulful reflection. His work has taken him across the globe, where he captures not just images, but emotions and real meaningful encounters. And in this episode, we explored Josiah's unique creative philosophy and how he navigates the tension between artistry, audience capture, and commercial demands. We discussed his storytelling techniques, his dabbles in filmmaking, the transformative power of travel on his creative vision, and how moments of challenge or joy can lead to personal breakthroughs. We also explored what makes him happy above any photography pursuits and touched what mastery really means, how to become a savant, and how future generations of photographers can tap into their creative powers. It was such a privilege to have Josiah on the show. I've been a fan of him for such a long time, and I hope you find the conversation as fascinating as I did to tap into his mindset as such an incredible artist. So now I bring you Josiah Gordan. Josiah Gordan, welcome to the Mood Podcast.
thank you. It's so good being here.
Yeah, we finally got you here.
Yeah.
And what brings you to Bali?
Mostly visiting friends. I have a lot of friends here over the years that I've been coming. And then also I just did a trip to Raja Ampat, so it was just a mixture of the two. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Raja Ampat, special place.
Very special place. Fertile waters.
Yes, and protected to some extent, right? There's some nice
It's
biodiversity
actually-
protection.
It's actually very well protected.
Yeah.
From what I've seen. No fishing, I mean the locals do, but very conservatively.
Yeah.
And actually from what I've noticed, the locals are very conscientious about how they've been like that for centuries. Like for example, they cultivate sea cucumbers in certain areas, and they'll mark off islands, so it'll be like 3 years to cultivate sea cucumbers on this island, and then they don't touch it for years, and then they'll go to the next one. So they already have a pretty environmentally conscious way of doing things there, and it's even more protected now by the government, because I've been diving all around the world, and I would say it's the most incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you on that. Definitely my number one place I've been to underwater, but we're going to get to your underwater antics later on. I wanted to start by something I think I saw on one of your platforms or some of your Instagram posts, which I like the way you either talk personally or you explain the situation with what you're doing. I think I saw on there how you described yourself as, and maybe even your profile, but you described yourself as a professional button pusher.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Expand that for me, elaborate for me what you do and kind of why you do it.
Well, yeah, I'm a photographer. I've been doing it, may maybe close to 15 years now, if you include everything, since the time I first picked up a camera. Um, and I've always enjoyed art. As a kid, I collected Nat Geo magazines. I had a little stack of them in the corner, and I would never read them. I would just look at the pictures and picture books, like just anything that had pictures. I always loved it. And then yeah, picked up a camera, had a little point and shoot, and just loved it. Had it everywhere with me, everywhere I went. And going into college, I was studying public communication, and I was a photographer at that time, in the sense that I still had my camera everywhere I went. It's what I did in my free time, but I never really saw it as a career I could pursue. It just didn't really register that that was something that I could do, because um, I thought I needed a real job, and I didn't even know what that meant or looked like. And then slowly through during college, I was getting small jobs here and there doing photography, and that turned into yeah, that just slowly turned into a career. I dropped out of college and started pursuing that. And then I guess where the professional button presser comes in is I've just always loved humor, and so uh, it's just a reminder not to take things seriously, and not to take myself too seriously, and push people's buttons as well as my cameras.
Yeah,
Yeah,
push other people's
yeah,
buttons.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I think
Yeah,
you also described yourself having a fun meter, or your friends describe you as
yeah,
having a fun
yeah,
meter.
yeah. I have my one of my best friends. He told me Josiah has a fun meter, and it always needs to be in red, and if it's not, there's a problem, and he's gonna make it a problem.
Too much fun? Is there such a thing?
Yeah, well, no. According to my other friends, yeah, but
So when do you get serious? You know, if I look at a lot of your work, which has so much meaning and emotion in it, a lot of it very not serious, but there's some drama in there. There's, I mean, if I was, we would take one of the most amazing short films I've seen in Angelita. That is something that isn't necessarily fun on the outset. There's layers to it, obviously, and there's a story there. But so where does the fun end and the serious Josiah
um,
begin?
I think for me, if when it comes to my work or the stuff that I enjoy doing, if there's not a level of fun involved, then there can't be a level of seriousness with the end product, in the sense of, like, if I'm not enjoying doing what I do, and for me to enjoy it, I need to have fun. And so if I'm not enjoying it, I think it shows in the end product, for anything, right? So there I guess there is a cutoff for fun and seriousness, when like, once the final product is finished and the viewer is seeing it, it tends to be more serious, but the process of getting it was more fun. So um I don't know if that's a good answer for
Well, has that
that,
always
but
been you, or is that something you also have to work on? I mean, I'm talk about this with many artists, and some rely on their own, not misery, but traumatic experiences and suffering to garner some of the most impactful work that they've done, and others are the opposite, right? Where it's just that they believe that internal happiness leads to external success in whatever they might be going. Is that something you work on, or do you, that's just who you are?
I think emotionality plays a role in anything, whether it comes from happy emotions or sad emotions. So I think you can harness both to create equally impressive things. I don't know whether there's a right or wrong way to do that, but I think for me personally, I don't necessarily. I think that just comes naturally. Like, if I'm going through a tough time, naturally the stuff I'm doing in those times tends to allude to that, and vice versa. Um, but I don't think I fully set out, when I'm planning on doing something, to portray a certain emotion. I think it's just kind of more natural.
why do you do it in the first place? What is it about photography? I know it's a very difficult explanation. I always struggle with it. I love pictures, right?
Yeah.
I used to collect National Geographic as
Yeah,
well.
yeah,
Did
yeah.
exactly the same thing. Didn't read,
Yeah.
still don't. I'd rather look at photos than read.
Mhm.
Why do you think it is that you are drawn to photography in the way that you are?
Um, yeah, it's a good question. I mean, simplest answer, I just like it. I've definitely been the type of person my whole life that um I become very fixated on things, but for short periods of times, and then I lose interest in it. And that's been throughout my life, and even now, like I I've been going through a phase where like I'm building bookshelves, and I'm like I need to fill it up with books and like read all these books. And I'm kind of coming out of that now, and I'm like, "Bro, I just spent so much money on books. Like I don't even care about these books, you know?" And so it's like I have these things that like I go through phases, but photography's really been the only constant in my life that I haven't lost interest in. I've lost interest in um types of photography, I would say, this happened, during COVID time. I had been doing landscape photography for 6 years at that point, and I felt myself burning out, and I thought I was burning out on photography, and just kind of wanted to switch things up in my life and maybe even choose a different career, and started looking into like construction work and that kind of thing. Um and then when COVID hit, I was kind of stuck in one place, and it forced me to step outside of my box because I couldn't travel and go to landscapes, these beautiful landscapes, because I was in Georgia at the time and just didn't offer offer those types of scenery. And so I had to step out of my box and think more creatively, like how I could still take pictures in that time, but it was completely out of the zone that I had been doing it previously. And then I fell back in love with it. I started shooting film. I started messing with like like started getting more technical with the camera gear that I owned, and trying different things out, and it made me fall in love with it again. And so I think it's helped that there's so many avenues that you can take within photography, and it's not stuck to just one thing, and it allows many different ways for creative expression. And so that's one of the reasons that I think I haven't lost interest in it, because if there's something that starts getting boring, then I can just switch over and try something completely new out and feel like I'm starting all over again.
And you still feel like you have that freedom to do that, or the bigger and more successful you become, do you feel a little bit more trapped by that identity or that style that you currently or have had?
I think I did for a while. Like I felt trapped in landscape photography, for example, for a long time. And I was scared to publish other work that I have been doing that I enjoyed more, because I was scared the audience that I had cultivated wouldn't
Yeah.
enjoy it because it was something completely different. But as I started incorporating it into the stuff I was publishing, I found that yes, there was a lull in the beginning of like people transferring over to liking the the newer stuff that I was putting out, but over time it became part of my identity as a photographer. And so now I feel a lot more freedom in experimenting and trying different things out, and not and I think a lot of it is because I feel already established. And so if I put something out that people don't enjoy as much, I have a lot of background that people can't just be like, "Oh man, he sucks," because they can see the other stuff that I've done, even if they don't like a certain thing, they just don't like the new thing that I put out. So essentially it's like I don't feel trapped because I'm established already as an artist, and I'm a lot more uh uh what's the right word? Confident. I'm a lot more confident in what I do, and so I can experiment a lot more because of that.
And you probably have had a loyal audience for a while now, so that even if you put out some work that maybe some people aren't that happy with, they more happy with you, they will follow you rather than the work per se.
Sure,
So
yeah, maybe so. I think before I worried a lot more about the people who followed my work more than the work itself.
right.
And now I've kind of flipped over. And so maybe that's the case, but I also like don't care as much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm just kind of at that point where it's like,
that.
I'm so appreciative, obviously, for the people who do follow my work and have supported me over the years, because I wouldn't be what I am now without those people. So it's not a matter of like I don't care about the people who have supported me. It's more so but I care about the work a lot, and because it's who I am. And so I have to be careful not to lose myself to what people expect of me.
Yeah. And with that work, how much has come from travel? You've traveled your whole life. Give us a background how travel and photography have kind of interacted with each other.
Um, yeah, I mean, I grew up an international kid, and travel has always been a core part of my being. Like I've never really had a home, I would say. Like if you ask me where I'm from, I always just say where I'm living at the moment, because I have a difficult time. Like unless you want a 20-minute conversation when you're just trying to get one sentence from someone, you know, like I just say where I'm at now. So definitely, I think growing up that way has allowed me to be on the move quite a lot. And when you're on the move a lot, you're always experiencing and seeing new and different things, and it definitely helps a photography career when you're constantly photographing different things and um, different cultures. You know, whatever photography style you have, um, it lends itself to that.
So what style is that now? How would you define what type of
What I do
photography
now,
you do?
I think a mixture of landscape and underwater, and I mean, it's really just the environment that I'm in. Like I think I just dabble, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
um, but I personally love surrealness. I would say is what I go for and what I try to do. Obviously, it all doesn't fall under that, but that's my kind of go-to. What I love is a surreal looking photo.
You say that, and I think of one of your images, and for those that are watching, we'll pull up on screen now, but of I don't have it on my phone to show you. I'm trying to describe it. It might have been Carl Shakur actually, but it was someone looks like they're falling. I think you're in the salt flats and the reflection, and they're almost suspended
Yeah,
in
yeah.
midair. Tell us how you tell me. I'm more interested how you created that.
So that was my friend Clay, Alive Like the Wind.
Clay.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah.
Super great guy, super creative.
He's on the wall downstairs.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
is. Yeah, he is. I had him. We were at the Salt Flats, and um, yeah. I guess for those who listening who don't know the Bolivian Salt Flats, it's an area the size of Jamaica, and if you drive out into the like in certain times of the year after the rainy season, there's about 2 inches of water that cover the whole surface of this area.
Wow, it's that big.
It's huge. It's
Wow.
huge. And it's so big to the point where you drive out into the middle of it and you turn around and have a 360 view and you see nothing but a giant mirror on all sides of you. And it really lends itself to just like whatever the sky looks like is what the ground looks like. And so just every day is a different experience because, how the cloud patterns are, the sunset that we get, or rainbows, or, whatever weather patterns you can think of in the sky, you're looking at on the ground as well. And so yeah, we went out there and just brought a stool, and I just had him lay out on a stool, and then I just photoshopped the stool out afterwards. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Incredible shot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks.
I think you had a video on there as well. You can tell I've been scouring some of your platforms recently. Um, of you pointing to, I think you got it live on video of a lightning bolt.
Yeah.
Yeah, was that the same trip?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that was
Well,
amazing.
I've been there. I don't know if it was the same one. I've been there 3 times now, 2 times. I don't remember. But every time I spend about 2 or 3 weeks there, and I'll just stay on the salt flats the whole
Yeah,
time.
incredible.
But yeah, I mean, just the weather conditions are crazy. Like lightning storms off in the distance, and those reflect onto the ground as well. So it's otherworldly, man. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Just a really quick break in the podcast to tell you about something that's been a game changer for my own work. You know, I'm all about creating content that's impactful and visually stunning. And a big part of that is thanks to Artlist. I use Artlist for all the dramatic cinematic music you see in the trailers, and that brings all my other videos to life. And their massive library of high quality stock footage and sound effects is honestly a lifesaver. Whether you're a filmmaker, content creator, or photographer, Artlist has everything you need to take your projects to the next level. What I love most about Artlist, though, is how easy it makes finding the perfect asset. I'm super lazy, and their platform is super user-friendly. And the quality of their music and footage is just top-notch. It doesn't matter if you're working on a big project or just something small, Artlist certainly has the range and the quality to make your work really stand out. Plus, everything is royalty-free, so you can use it however you like without worrying about the legal stuff. And because I believe in sharing the good stuff, here's a little perk for you. Use the link in the description to sign up for an annual plan, and you'll get 2 extra months free. It's a great deal to keep your creative juices flowing even longer. All right, let's get back to the episode. Yeah, I definitely get the surreal nature throughout all of your images, actually. Where did that intent come from? I mean, you talked about your intent almost changing. One, when you started, was more for your audience. Now it's essentially more for you. Was that because you became a little bit unhappy with essentially serving an audience rather than creating what you wanted to create, or where did that change in intention come from?
Um, I wouldn't necessarily say I was unhappy. I think it's just part of growing growing into who you are as a person and understanding. And so I think at the time I was very much so enjoying what I was doing, but I started feeling bored by it, or started feeling unfulfilled is a better word. Um, so it wasn't necessarily because at that moment I was like, "Oh, I'm creating for an audience and I don't like it." Like, I wasn't having those thoughts. It was more so around the idea that I was like, "Oh, like what I'm doing right now doesn't feel super fulfilling." Um, and yeah, just over time, you just kind of you become more comfortable as whatever type of art you do. The more you do it, the more you understand, and the more you understand what you like, and that comes through experimentation and trying. And I think over time I just kind of and I wouldn't even go as far as saying as it's always going to be this way, in the sense of like, this is the style that I like right now, this is what I enjoy doing right now. um and I know that is fulfilling to me in an artistic way. And so that is the style that I pursue now, because I do find more fulfillment in it.
Yeah, we're getting deep, aren't we? We're getting quite serious. I'll try and bring the fun meter back up.
Yeah.
But one more question,
This is fun. Yeah, no.
in
Yeah.
terms of a philosophical sense, I guess, and I think travel might play into this for you. It certainly does for me, but I'm interested to hear your take on it. Does travel really act as a source of your? It's a two-part question. Does travel really act as like a source of your creativity? If not, where does that source really come from? But more importantly, when you travel, and I'm talking about this with many people at the moment, especially groups of beginner photographers who want to do photography in different countries. How do you not be a tourist? And how do you really kind of challenge the stereotypes of tourism photography, if that makes sense? Because as we grow as a population around the world, right? We were talking about this earlier with Ladakh, but you know, different cultures westernized, different cultures modernized, different cultures start to get used to tourism and tourists. Does that ever, play into your creativity and source of like, okay, I need to do something different?
Yeah, I mean, everyone wants to do something different. Um, I think, I think a few answers in there. I think, as far as like how to not be a tourist with photography, I think no matter what, when you go to a new place, you are a tourist. You can't escape that. It's not your culture. It's not what you're used to. So there is an experience there for you, and you're a tourist to experiencing it. Um, uh, so I think I don't think the two are necessarily separatable. Um, but when it comes to creating something new, I mean, I've always looked at it this way. Look, like creativity is a muscle, yeah? Like, or I've looked at it as creativity being a muscle. And um you need to work out that muscle for it to be stronger. And I think everyone's creative. I think everyone was born with a sense of creativity. Like no one is not creative. Everyone has it. We're all creative in different ways. But I think that you can't expect to just be creative just because you have a natural tendency to be creative. In the sense of like, you can't expect to just pick up a camera or pick up whatever you're doing and just be immediately creating something new that no one's ever seen before, um, because you haven't worked out that muscle yet. And so there there is and especially in a very convoluted and saturated environment as photography, because there's a lot of people doing it, a lot of people who want to do it. Um,
A lot of fantastic
and
artists
a lot
doing
of
it.
people who are really good
Yeah,
at doing it, right?
yeah.
And so in a way, you're kind of competing with all of these people, and um, I think there needs to be a better understanding that, hey, if I'm just starting out, don't put it on yourself to just expect to be a savant and going to a place and just completely changing the dynamic of what photography looks like on your first go. It's like Um, I think we need to ground ourselves in understanding that, hey, like we have a lot of potential, but we're also not that special, you know? But that's also comes with that idea that I said in the beginning. It's like, hey, just don't take yourself too seriously. Like it's like have fun with it. Do what you love. But don't put all these expectations on yourself, especially in the very beginning when you're just starting out to yeah, just change the whole dynamic of what photography looks like, because it's just not gonna happen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's not.
Um, but yeah, I mean, like, culturally and, like, back to the going like, experiencing new things, and I mean, I would always consider myself to have more of an adventurous spirit than a creative spirit first. Like I love the sense of adventure. I grew up like I love hike. I'm an outdoors guy. Like I love hiking. I love diving. I love spearfishing. I love camping. Like I love these things more than I love photography. Um, and but they both lend themselves very very well, because usually the places that I'm going to experience those things are quite beautiful, and so they lend themselves to taking photos that are quite beautiful. And then when you incorporate all the other things that I've learned through time, whether it's like incorporating people into it or positions or whatever, it's like you take what is naturally already there, and then you incorporate your own artistic vision into it, and then you yeah, that's been my style. So man, this is a really long-winded answer to
It's
that
great.
question, but yeah, I think keep your expectations low, and do it for enjoyment. Like enjoy what you're doing. And I guess for me, when I say enjoy what you're doing, one man's dream is another man's nightmare, right? So it's like for me, enjoyment is uh walking a week to get to a place that's really beautiful to set up my tent, and then wow, this is a beautiful photo, right? So it's but that could be not as enjoyable for someone else, right? So I think it's a mixture of finding what you enjoy outside of photography as well, and then mixing that into what you do in your art, and then the two go hand in hand quite well.
Easy.
Yeah.
We talked about style quite a lot. What about voice? Is there any kind of narrative or storytelling narrative that is a constant in your work? We'll talk about underwater in a minute. Something that's quite powerful and surrealism. But is there something bigger that you try to say, or do you take it more image by image, series by series, project by project?
Yeah, I mean, naturally no. Naturally I don't. it's more image by image, I would say. I don't necessarily come into things with a preconceived idea narratively. I do come into things with a preconceived idea as what I want the photo to look like, but I don't necessarily have a bigger picture story I'm trying to tell through that image. I'm just trying to create an image, and I let whatever that image um or I let the narrative be whatever people who are looking at the image want it to be, because I don't really care. Like I'm not like I'm not the type of person that wants people to get a specific narrative out of what I'm showing them. I think that's why art's very subjective. That's why art has value in so many different, or like one painting's $1 million and it's just like one solid color, right? And you look at it and you're like, this is worth nothing to me, but something else, someone else can be like, wow, this is profound. And I have no idea why they think it's profound. I think it's dumb, but it's worth something to them, right? So it's like, um, so I think that's just art in general. I think people can create their own narratives. And I think that's a cool thing. And I don't want to tarnish that by making people see what I need them to see, especially when I don't really have anything I'm trying to tell them, you know?
So your focus is really more on the process, enjoying that process of making a photograph and the aesthetic.
Yeah, I try,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
I think it's easy to say that.
yeah, yeah.
Obviously things can become stressful and not as fun and these kind of things. But yeah, I mean that's a goal, right? You always try and pursue that.
How's the fun meter when you don't get the shot that you wanted?
It's not good.
It's
It's
redlining the other
Yeah,
way.
red light. It's like, come on, man. No, but I mean, like, I think one thing you find is like, um, I say that, but it's usually not a big deal when because almost all of my photography, like, I hate being alone. Like, this is one of my things. Like, I don't like to be alone. So usually the process is I'm with friends and we're having a good time. And even if we don't get it, of course, there's like ah man, like you like in a lot of times there's things that I set up that take quite a long time quite a lot of time of preparation to get to the point when we take the photo, and then it doesn't happen. It's like, so obviously there is a side of like, but usually through the process, you're also spending time with friends, which is one of the most important things in my life is my community. And so, I mean, how could I ever say time with community was a bad thing, right? So there's always silver linings and always these kind of things. I think when it's for a job and you're getting paid for it, then it's a bit more frustrating. But if there's no like if there's nothing you're doing it for, if there's no one you're doing it for except for yourself, like if you have an image that you want to create and you're doing it for yourself, you're gonna have plenty of other opportunities to get it. So it's not the end of the world.
Yeah,
And
unless you don't.
unless you do, yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, well, I mean, there's always those times, like,
No,
I
you
think,
do. No, you do. You always have another chance. It may not be exactly the same, but
right. Well, that's what I was gonna say. Like, it different types of photography. So, for example, like a street photographer, you see one person walking down the road, and that's your guy that you need to get the photo of, right? Because of their look or whatever, and you miss it. Then it's a lot more discouraging because that opportunity is never gonna come again. So of course, but for the style that I don't really do street photography as much. I don't do. I my preferred way of shooting is a lot more set up, and to get all of the elements fit together, to take one picture. And so for that style, it you get more chances. I would say more
I'm the
often
same.
than
Me
not.
too.
Yeah.
I get it. Um, you talked about community, and I've talked about this recently as well. In the people you're with on a shoot or on a project, but also the people that you are photographing yourself, who are in front of the camera or behind it, or part of the staff that the guides and all these, even just the local population. They always seem to come, or the enjoyment of their company and the interaction with them and getting to know them always seems to come above and beyond the photograph. Getting a great photo is great, but actually the real fulfillment and satisfaction, enjoyment comes from those interactions. So I definitely feel that.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, but that's why it's important to like with what I was saying other to align with the things that to align the things that you enjoy personally with what you're doing. Because if they're not aligned, then not getting the photo at the end is a lot more devastating. But if the two, like for example, if I go hiking for 7 days and it's rainy at the end, um, if I don't like hiking, that photo would be like, it would be devastating. Like, I'd spent all of this time to do there, but because I enjoy hiking so much, it's like, "Oh, I got a great hike out of it." You know what I mean? So it's like you have to align, like, life isn't photography, life isn't art. Like, it's so much more than that. And if your whole life is just focused around that, then of course it's gonna be a lot more devastating. I mean, your life's pretty devastating probably if you're just focused on that.
For sure. Well,
Yeah.
a lot of people do focus on it, and with the advent of social media, a lot of photographers these days, that is their daily mantra almost, is to make sure I'm creating, posting, getting followers, and that's becomes their life, right? So there is that danger. So
Well, I
it's
mean, there's the business aspect to it, of course, and there's the desire to grow, and I mean, the desire to grow goes hand in hand with career. So, you know, I mean, I think that's with any career. Like careers can be stressful, especially when you're starting out, or especially when there's a lull. So that's very natural. Um, but all the more important why you need to mix it in with other things that you enjoy in life.
and remember what stay grounded to what you do enjoy, right? And at least be aware of that.
Yeah, for sure.
Otherwise, greed will take over. Why do you think you talked about why you do what you do? Why do you think people enjoy your stuff? Why do people follow you, do you think, in your mind?
Well, it's definitely not for my looks. I would
I wouldn't
say
say that. Good looking lad.
well, I never post myself, so they wouldn't
Oh,
know.
yeah.
I don't know. I think I well, starting out, I was I was doing what everyone else did, and I think the birth of like this travel photographer when that first kind of happened, there was a lot of excitement around people who were doing that. And my life already landed itself naturally to being kind of all over the place. And so I was already kind of in that scene before it became a thing to be that in that scene, or before it was something that people aspired to do or be. Because I had always just grown up being all over the place. And I think because of that I grew. And I think and originally I don't necessarily think it was only because of the photography. I think it was also because of the places that I was going to, because I was a landscape photographer, and so people wanted to see cool places and things like this. Um and so and I think I recognized that over time where it was like it didn't feel like I was really doing contributing anything to the art world. I was contributing more to the
Right.
travel world. Which was fine. I just didn't find much fulfillment in it. Um, so why I think I grew an audience from that, obviously. And then ever since I stopped doing it, my audience actually I is declines every day. The last, I would say, 4 years, I've been like, when it comes to Instagram and following, I haven't grown at all. Um, and I was only growing when I was doing more of the travel focused things. So, but the people that have stayed, I think I would assume they follow me because they enjoy my work, and I think it's just as simple as that. You know, they enjoy my style, they enjoy what I post. I don't know. I don't ever really think of it super deeply.
No
You
one
know,
does. It's
I
interesting.
think I just don't put too much thought into it. It would just be, yeah, and as some assumed, like, yeah,
Yeah.
if you like it, stay.
Yeah.
If you don't like
Yeah.
it, yeah, you know,
See you later.
yeah, yeah,
Um, yeah, I feel your pain with well, it's not a pain. It's just the way it is with followers, and certainly all social media platforms, and they've changed. If you're talking 4 years, though, goodness, they've changed so much in just 4 years. So I mean, maybe it has something to do with what you're putting out there or the frequency we're putting out there, but I also think it's a lot to do with just the way the platforms are run, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, there's like algorithms and all of those things.
Okay, let's go underwater. Real interest of me. I've been diving most of my life, and I wish I could do more underwater photography. I take my camera down every time I dive, but I can't do everything all the time. So I mean, I love your stuff. We'll talk about your book a little bit. I know that's underwater based. Um, let's focus on Angelita first. So obviously I know what it is and I know what went into it. I've watched the videos. I'd like to hear it from you. Tell us a story of that, how that came about. We talked about narratives earlier and storytelling. Tell us about the concept generation of that, and then walk us through or swim us through the process and what it was all about.
So for years, like a lot. So when it comes to the photographers you see on Instagram, a lot of us kind of started around the same time together. So like a lot of the bigger photographers that you see right now, we were all romping around together on trips, 2016,
Such
2017.
as
Uh Emmett, Emmett Sparling, Jordan Hammond, Chelsea Yamaze. I mean, just like the list goes on, right? Of just all these people. And of course, you'll find like there's cliques and all of these different things. But for the most part, it's a very small community. Like a lot of us either know of each other or know each other, and have met. Um, because especially starting out, companies at that time were doing a lot of group trips, like getting all of these people from all over the place together. So it created this sense of like really everyone kind of knows each other. What was the question again?
um, tell us about Angelita. Tell us
Oh,
about
right, right, right.
the concept, the
Oh, right,
story.
right, right. That's what I was getting at. So when we were all starting out, I was surrounded by a lot of people who did video and photography, and we would go on trips, and everyone was making like I'm sure you saw at that time, especially like the travel videos, like the montage videos of people going doing stuff. And I have always been interested in video, but but I never felt the draw. It was very difficult for me to take video. For example, like we would do a group trip, everyone's taking clips here and there, and I was only taking pictures. And by the end of the trip, I was like, "Oh man, I didn't film anything." Like, because video and photography, they're different, but they go hand in hand. Like you take a picture, switch over to video really quick, take a video. And I have so many friends who are just so like they don't even think about it. They just do it, and then they'll come with all of these amazing pictures and then have all of these video clips to go with all these amazing pictures, and then I come out of the trip and I just have all these amazing pictures, right? So it's like that dynamic of um so I was in that environment and always pressured myself to take more video, but I was never like I just never really wanted to. And so I ultimately just told myself like I'm just not a video guy. I'm just going to stick to photography and try my best in that avenue. Um and then over time I just had more and more and more draw to it. So I was trying to figure out a way where I could do a video with zero experience. I'm not a videographer. I don't know how to open Final Cut. Like I don't know how to do anything on it. I'm just not that guy. Um but all my friends are, right? So there was always that pressure. So finally I was like, okay, I think really the only way I can do it is if I have a shot list and I go into something and I know exactly what I'm going to shoot and I have everything written down and it's scene by scene, cuz my brain doesn't work in the way of taking a bunch of video clips, like random ones, and then putting them together at the end, because I'm a lot more story driven, which is goes against what I told you earlier with photography. But when it comes to video, I want to tell a story. And I never had a story to tell through random clips. And so I had been diving in Mexico. I went for the first time in 2020. Went for a dive. Went to this dive site called Angelita, and it was just like mind blowing. What? How does this place exist? I mean, it's a freshwater cave, essentially, cenote. And at the bottom, at 30 meters, there's a cloud, and it's a it's hydrogen sulfide, and it's what it basically is like plant matter in trees fall into the cenote, and the pressure is so high at 30 meters that that gas can't like escape back up, so it's just kind of stuck there as a cloud, it's just mind blowing. So we did this dive, and I was like, "Wow, this is incredible." And I left Mexico still thinking about that dive, and I was like, "Wow, if I was ever gonna do a film, like that would be a really cool place to do it because it's just so weird looking." And so I completely just wrote a story around that spot. I was like, I'm because I wanted the shots to be beautiful. I wanted it to look cool, right? So it was like a mixture of focusing on some sort of story to tell, but also the environment, and so yeah, that was just kind of the birth of that short film. And I told my friends about it. Luckily they were down. Because it was a hard process, especially like trying to I mean, obviously they were all friends, so they were all down, but like convincing people to spend that much amount of time, and also not just time, like it was not easy, as far as just like, yeah, I mean, so it's just like convincing people to do all of that stuff from me who's never does video. Like it was just like, I was like, please, like, I think it'll be
Help
cool.
me. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, they were all super down, which I'm so grateful for. I mean, it would have never happened if it wasn't for my friends who were all involved. Like they did way more than I ever did. And yeah, that was the birth of it, of just like wanting to make something that had a narrative behind it, that looked cool. And a lot of it was taking inspirations from all my friends who have been doing video for so long and creating these beautiful like travel videos and stuff. But I just wasn't. I just couldn't do it because my brain didn't work that way. And so it was inspired by that, and led and now, a lot of the work that I do is actually a lot more directorial. So
Really.
so I I get hired quite a bit for directing, like directing things, for commercials. I did a music video, like things like that. Which is cool because it went from not any video experience at all to
Directing
still not
musicals.
any, yeah, still not any
Just jumped
video.
the
Like
videographer face.
I still can't open Final Cut, you know. But this is one thing that I really love video for. It's um photography is very solo in the sense of the work itself at the end. Of course, you have your model, and if you're shooting with a model or a person, so you have that dynamic. But at the end, it's still your work at the end. But with video, and this is something that I found doing Angelita, uh, it was color grading. Okay, who of my friends really good at color grading? Find them. Who can edit? Find my friend, do this. I had my friend, compose the music for it. Like he's a composer, actor. Like all of these things. So it's like bringing in all of my friends with all these different capabilities and strong suits, and it kind of becomes a group effort. And
The
so
music was composed.
yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah,
epic. Because I thought that's one of the best
yeah.
parts
He
of
did
it.
so. His name's Matt Morgan. He the way he made it was I sent him the video and he played the piano over it. And that's how he came up with
So not
the
Artlist.
score for it. Yeah, no, not Artlist. No, he did it all himself, and he's incredible.
So yeah, the team all coming
Yeah, the
together.
team aspect of it was just so cool because I'm just such a community guy, and I love my friends, and I want to be around my friends, and so it created this perfect environment for all of us to come together, and like I remember that, like, of course there was stressors filming it, obviously, naturally, but at the end of it, it was just such a fun 10 day. It was 10 days. It was such a fun 10 days because we were all just hanging out with each other, and you film. And I mean, for that video, we could only film in the morning, so we spent like 2 hours in the morning getting ready, doing the filming, and then we'd have the rest of the day. We were
And you
just
could
kind of
only
hung out.
film for about 15 minutes at that depth.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's all. That we got 15 minutes of filming a day,
Yeah.
but it's a 2-hour process of getting everything
Of
ready,
course.
whatever.
But at the bottom,
At the bottom, we had 15 minutes, so
'cause you got
we only could shoot like max 3 clips a day. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's just like I just loved that. I loved the whole process, and now, um, I yeah, I love doing video. I've made more videos. I just haven't posted them. But
okay.
I've made like 7 now, I think.
Wow. Why haven't you posted them?
Like legalities,
Oh,
like
okay.
people just haven't been released yet. I can't do it on my own. There's one that I'm super stoked about. It's also an underwater one. It's shot completely upside down, and I think it's so cool. But I can't release it
You
because I was
shot it
hired to do.
upside down or you flipped it upside
I
down
flipped
and
it upside
okay,
down, so the
okay.
whole thing's upside down. Yeah. Yeah, but I can't
Interesting.
release it because I was hired to do it, and they
Okay,
haven't.
okay.
And that was 3 years ago, right? So it's
But
like
Angelita was purely a personal
that was
project.
purely
Yeah, yeah.
so I think at the end of the day, what I'm trying to get to is just like self-funding more of these things. Because what I've realized is when I'm doing it for other people and companies, I really enjoy it because luckily they've given me the freedom to creatively pursue the things that I want to pursue, but it's not mine at the end, which I don't need it in an ego sense to be mine. I just want to share it. And I found that there's a lot of reasons that I can't from the ones that I've been doing. So I want to self-fund more, but they become quite expensive. Or they are quite expensive. Especially when you have a lot of people involved. Um and yeah, so it's like a slow process of figuring out, like I've been working on a feature length movie. I would love to do a feature length movie with my friends, right? And like so I've been working on that. I want to do like a horror film. I just think that would be so much fun. um and so yeah, I've been working on a script for that, but like these are things that I enjoy, and so like I'll put time
In
into
between
in
jobs
between.
and
Yeah,
travel and
exactly.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, Let's just stay on Angelita a little bit because I want to express to the audience exactly, how difficult it was to make this video. How amazing it came out. But first of all, what is the story of Angelita? For those that haven't seen it yet, I will. I'll link the description and people need to go and watch it. But tell us the story and then tell us exactly, the 10-day process of getting that video.
I think the story, well, like for me, because like there's a story personally for me when I was writing it, when I was just like, oh, this could be I like what's the right word? I like allegories. And so with most of the video stuff I do, I have a personal allegory within the video that isn't very obvious. So for me, and Angelita was just like addiction. That was the premise for me, of uh someone someone who becomes addicted and keeps being drawn back by whatever it is that they were addicted by, and eventually losing themselves in it. Because at the very end,
Spoiler alert.
they jump in together into the unknown. So it's like a darker theme. But most people, but I didn't tell anyone that, and most people would see it as like a love story or something like this, and which is great. Like,
And it's
whatever you
great
want it
that it
to
has
be.
those. Yeah,
Yeah,
we talked about that earlier, right?
whatever
Whatever
you
you
want it to
perceive.
be. But for me, that's what it was. It was just like a short story about addiction and how easy it is to lose yourself in it. Um, yeah.
That's something that's close to home. Obviously, have you
Um,
experienced addiction or
not. I mean, in a way, like like nicotine, for example. I that's something I've struggled with throughout my life. Um, but not in like tremendously horrible ways of addiction. I can definitely relate to addiction. With my own personal struggles with nicotine, for example. And so it. But again, like that's why I say, like, when you asked me earlier, does a lot of what you do correlate to emotions that you're feeling? And it's like Not necessarily. It's just stuff that I'm interested in, and like how it affects people, and how, so it's like, even like, it might not be something that I'm struggling with personally, but it's something that I see and something that I find very interesting. So I'll try and write about it, or sympathize with it.
I think with addiction, everyone suffers with it to some
Yeah, for
extent,
sure,
right?
for sure.
Sugar,
Yeah,
me.
sure.
I have an addictive personality. Get
Yeah,
me hooked
same,
on, get
same.
me
Yeah,
hooked on
yeah,
anything,
yeah,
easy.
yeah,
Yeah, it's a daily battle. No
yeah, yeah, for sure.
willpower.
Yeah.
And then, so the process, we'll keep it short, but the process was, and correct me if I'm wrong, we've got 5 days of free dive training, and then a test dive the next day, and then it's a matter of how many dives to get the shots after that. 5-7 days of actual shooting.
We shot the whole time, but we shot in 3 locations.
Oh,
So
right.
so
Okay.
so
Okay.
the Angelita dive, that one was, we had 15 minutes each day. So that was 5 days just diving there, or no, more than that. It was like 7 days just diving there, and then to get those shots. And then there was another cenote that we shot in with this like incredible light beam. That one you could shoot in for, I think it was like 2 or 3 hours, because we weren't as deep. Um, and I was able to shoot it free diving, so I didn't need to like, we were all able to free dive it. And it was only like 15 meters, right? So it's like we were able to get those shots kind of throughout the day, and there wasn't like a nitrogen buildup or anything like that. That one was completely dependent on the sun, because for the light beam. So as long as the sun was in the sky in that area, we were able to shoot. And I think we did that one for 2 days. And then there was one other one that was like a really shallow cenote, that we did. Like, I think there was a scene where she kind of comes up towards the surface, and he's like, and that was just in another shallower one. And that one just took a day. Yeah.
Excuse the interruption very briefly, but I'd like to just take a moment to introduce you to a partner that has supported this podcast for a long time now. And it's Yore, a brand that truly stands at the intersection of art and craftsmanship. Yore offers handcrafted jewelry and wearable pieces of art, some of which are infused with something extraordinary: moonrock. Yep, you heard it right. Yore's unique designs incorporate rocks from the moon into silver and gold, creating really special jewelry that's not just beautiful, but otherworldly. Every piece from Yore is ethically sourced as well, and it's locally handcrafted, ensuring that you're not just wearing jewelry, but an actual story, a piece of art, and a connection to something far, far greater. Whether you're drawn to spirituality, fashion, the art of meaningful adornment, or just feeling and looking epic, Yore offers something truly special. Plus, they offer free worldwide shipping, making it easier than ever to bring a touch of the cosmos into your life. As a special offer for my lovely audience of the Mood Podcast, you can click the link below in the description and use the code Art of Intent at checkout to receive a whopping 20% off your first order. So don't miss this chance to own a real piece of the moon and experience the art of intent with Yore. Okay, I'm done. Promise. I'll let you get back to it. Well, incredible vision, and I highly encourage everyone to go and watch it. Actually, I think I saw one comment because I think I watched it a couple of years, or whenever it came out, a couple of years ago, and I think Finn sent it to me. You know, Finn Matson.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And then I rewatched it in preparation for this, and I think I saw one of the comments on YouTube had hundreds of comments, and one of the comments was, "Wow, I get to watch this for free," which is, you forget, right? In this world of abundance, we have YouTube, all the social media platforms, all the news platforms, most podcasts. Well, actually, that's not that true, but half podcasts are paywalled, half free. There's so much free content out there. And then when we're asked to pay $3 or $4 a month, it's like, well, what? You know? Do you, how do you approach that? It was obviously a conscious decision to put it on YouTube, but is that something that's different moving forward in terms of, want to get my stuff out there for people to watch without worrying about them paying for it? Or no, it's time I get rewarded for this type of stuff?
I For me personally, I'm not a businessman. Like I'm very, very, very bad at business. I will. I think I will always be a starving artist. I've just never. It never really computes with me, and it would be easy for me to say like, oh, I don't care about money and these things, but it's like that's not true. I just don't have a good business mind, and so when people are like, oh, like why didn't you monetize that or why don't you sell this? I'm like, I either the answer is I'm lazy or I don't know how to do it and I'm lazy, right? So um so it's like yeah, I mean that's a possibility. Like I'm not against these things, like with monetization of things because it's like I would love to be able to support myself through those things. I'm just not good at it. And so my natural instinct always is not, oh, how can I make money out of this? And again, not because I don't care about money, but because it just doesn't that's not how my brain works. That's not my first thought ever. My first thought always is excitement, like, oh, I just did this thing. Like everyone please watch it.
The
Please.
the experience, the process, and then the final
Yeah,
product,
yes.
essentially. Yeah.
And like I guess there is a subconscious hope that money just comes out of it out of thin air, right?
I know that feeling. I'll
um,
put this out there, and then someone will give me money. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I mean that's just like that's always man, and I know from a business aspect that's a horrible way of doing things because yeah, you don't really grow monetarily from doing it that way. And I'm very aware of that. Uh I'm just not good at it.
It's constant balance, isn't it? It's constant, I guess, pendulum swinging back and forth between, well, I need to pay the bills, and therefore I might compromise some of my artistic integrity because I've got to
Yeah.
make some sacrifices,
Yeah,
right? I've
yeah,
got to
for
go
sure.
and get some money.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, it's like, well, I can only really stay true to my art and my vision
Yeah.
by not worrying about the money side of it.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
no
It's like,
win-win.
man, it's such a fine line because it's like there is that side, but then there also like, eventually when you start having thoughts of having a family or, these things, it's like I can skate by on my own and I have for years. And now that I'm getting older, it's like, oh, okay, the thoughts of family, the thoughts of having children and these kind of things. It's like, um, I can't really, I couldn't do that with what I'm doing now. And so I have to, it's weird to think about people that don't exist yet as your motivator for doing things. But I find myself in that position a lot now where it's like, um, trying to be better at business for that so that ultimately I can have stability when those things inevitably come around in my life because I'm not ready for it right now, like financially. Um, and I don't want to always say I'm not ready for it. I want to be ready for it. And I and it gets to that point where it's like, okay, like you need to you need to figure this out.
I think it's almost a limiting belief as well. A lot of us have with ourselves. And like you talked about creativity, if you believe everyone's got an element of creativity ingrained in them, it's just a matter of finding that potential. Same with general business skills, right? It's there's no one that can't do it. It's certainly not someone who's of decent intellect and traveled the world and met so many people, and it's just maybe trying to tap into that a little bit more, or in my own experience, and I laugh when you said this because I'm a bit lazy as well when it comes to that kind of thing, because I don't really want to do that type of thing, right? Some people love it. Some people love going to get deals and money and making the next buck or making the next deal and pitch
I
and
love getting the deal.
yeah, yeah,
The process of it though, nah, man.
yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a constant battle. Speaking of deals, was Angelita the kind of birth of your book idea? How do they relate? Tell us about the book.
um, kind of. So when I did that, I think it's like two separate sides of wants for me, like as far as career goes. So it was like when I did the film, it was like, I really want to get into film. I want to uh I've never done it before. I want to try something new. I want to see if I can do it. And then I did it and I was like, wow, I really enjoyed doing that. And I would like to do this more. And so that was that. And then also because I had such a deep appreciation for the cenotes that I was diving in, and I was just like, some of my favorite pictures I've taken here. Um, and so then the same kind of thing I was telling you earlier. Okay, so I have all of these images that I've been taking. At that point, it was like over a year, and then I was like, this would be a great opportunity to maybe make a book, because I've always thought about making a book, but I've never really found a way to make a book where it made sense to make a book, in the sense of, I have pictures, but from just kind of all over the place, and it's just kind of scattered. And even though I have a very scattered brain, I like, if I'm making something, to make sense. So to me, it wouldn't make sense to have a book with just like random photos that I've taken. At least at this point in my life. Maybe one day it's like Josiah Gordan's favorite photographs book, right? Like, you could do that. But I don't think I'm at a point where I would want to do that. And so I wanted to really like focus in on something to create a book, but I never really found the time or something that I wanted to do it for. And then when I was in after I had finished the video project, I was like, oh, like, I have so many pictures of the cenotes. I should just keep doing this and I can make a book out of it easy. And then that ended up being a 4-year process. And I ended up, all the pictures that I had, I scrapped all of them and redid all of them, because I found it's not a narrative, but a style that I wanted to portray for the book. And the photos that I had taken earlier didn't quite fit that style. And so I just reshot them. This basically the same pictures, but just in the style that I wanted. Um, and yeah, that took 4 years and
Wow. How many visits?
over 20
Oh my
to
goodness.
Mexico. Yeah.
With the same people? With
Same people.
Chelsea?
Yeah, Chelsea was there for some. My one of my really good friends, Fernanda Morales, she's there in Mexico. Amazing, amazing model. Esther Abad, amazing model. Yeah, so I used
A lot of
a lot of the same people. And that's one thing that's really special to me is all of the people that are in the book are close friends of mine. And yeah, it's like a collaborative effort, right?
yeah,
Like
that's nice.
we I'm so grateful for them taking so much time. Like, whenever I came down, just like, yeah, let's go do it. Like, it's so nice to have friends like that who are supportive of you, and um, believe in you to do and give, and because like time is your most valuable thing, right? So for people to give you time for something that you personally have an artistic vision about, it means a lot. And so that's been, looking back, the biggest gift I've received in all of this is people's trust and time
So you
with
really
me.
need to get that book published.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Well, that goes back to, I'm not a big good business guy, right? So it's like, the reason it's taken so I've finished it for about a year and a half now, and it's just kind of been sitting in limbo. Part of it is just like, I'm very particular, so I want it to look the best possible. But I'm not as good at finding the right people to do it. But luckily, in the last few months, I've found a project manager that has been really helping me with that stuff, and we're hoping to have it released by the end of this year. But for me, it's very important that the quality is like perfect and everything's perfect in it, because I've spent so long on it, and I just don't want to release something that's half-assed, and
Absolutely.
I want it to be the best thing possible for what it is, and that's why it's taken me so long, because I just want it to be that. Um, so yeah, that's the process of it right now.
Let's look ahead as we start to wrap up. I can get you on your way, but when we think about where you pose and how you put your output into the world, and we talked about, you've got multiple films and videos in the pipeline. Where they will be released, I guess we'll find out. But where do you find comfort in putting your work out there in the audience? Where's your go-to? Is it such a thing as Instagram, or are you more comfortable keeping your work for you and your friends in a more private setting? Is that important to you? Getting your work out there?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think um, there is I mean, from an egotistical standpoint, there's definitely affirmation that comes from it of and it never not feels good for someone to tell you that, like, wow, I love this, right? Um, I think ultimately I just love photography, and I love creating things. And of course I want to show people the things that I create. Um and and I think ultimately it just comes down to that. Necessarily feel I don't necessarily create things and feel the need to keep it to myself.
If social media disappeared tomorrow, what would you do with your work? Where would you
I don't
release it?
know. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think I would continue doing what I do because I love it.
Yeah, you'd still do it.
I'd still do it. As far as sharing it, I don't know. I just know right now where it is. I'm able to share it in the way that I do. If if the if I lost the ability to share it in the way that I do right now, I would probably look into other outlets, like more books or
Yeah.
more physical. And that's ultimately what I'm trying to get into more, is more physical products,
Prince?
prints, and books. Like, depending on how well this book does, what I'd love is, if this book does well, to be able to use that money to finance other book projects. And just because ultimately I think that's what I would love the most, is just really hyper focusing on projects for a few years at a time, releasing a book and moving on to the next one. I
That'd be
think,
nice.
to me, that would be the ultimate dream. But of course it costs a lot to do that, and at the moment I don't have the financial freedom to fully do that. Um and so if that was a possibility through the success of this book, and it shows that it's a possibility, then I would definitely do something along those lines.
Yeah, there's a lot of charlatans out there in terms of publishers as well who,
Yeah. Well,
you
that's why
have
I
to.
want to self-publish. So I'm
Oh,
self-publishing.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
That is a big project.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I wish you the best of luck. Look
Thanks.
forward to getting a free copy.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
What does the next generation of photographers look like? If there's anything you can impart on the next generation of photographers, creators in today's algorithmic AI driven world, is there anything that comes to your mind that, in terms of advice and things that you've learned along the way?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think there's a lot. I think I touched on it earlier. But don't don't expect fortune right away. And don't A lot of people, I've noticed it in the creative industry, particularly, in any kind of art, really. It's just because you've created something doesn't mean it's good. Um, it might be good for you personally, which is great, but it doesn't mean other people are going to think it's good, and that's okay. Um, but you have to recognize that to be great at something, you have to give your time to it to become great. And if you don't give time to it, you're not going to be great. You're not going to stand amongst the artists of our generation, um, if you've just started out. It's just not going to happen. Like, if and how do you become one of the greats? You just give it time. I mean, what do they say? 10,000
Yeah,
hours, right?
it's about 10 years if you did it all the time.
Right. And it's like, with so many people in the artistic realm, how can you that are really, really good, how can you expect, why put that pressure on yourself to be someone who stands among the best of our time when you've only been doing it for a year or 2 years? And for me the advice would be, if it's something you love, fortune will come. It just comes in time, because if you're good at what you do, and I don't necessarily mean fortune in the millions, right? But enough to live.
Billions
Yeah, yeah, billions. Yeah, billions and billions.
of
Uh,
pesos.
um, but I do think that when it comes to art, you you have to love it, and it's going to take time, and it's going to take time, um, especially if you're not someone who's business minded like me. It's going to take a long time to get to the place, one, where other people in mass like your work or enjoy your work, and two, where you enjoy your work. And I think that's the most important one, because um, I mean, for me personally, I've been doing photography on and off for 15 years or so. I would say I didn't really start making money from photography until like maybe 5 years ago, to where it was actually, I was able to live off of it. So, I mean, it took me a long time to get to the place where it was something that I could just pursue this. And it didn't happen very easily. But again, that's coming from someone who's not super business minded. So a lot of other people could find avenues to, whatever. Um, but from a success standpoint, it's like, give yourself time. Like, it takes a lot of time. And if you want to be good at something, and this is with anything in life, you need to do it. You're not just naturally going to become a savant. You can become a savant, but you need time to do it. And if you don't give yourself that time, you're just not going to. Um, and so I guess in the harshest term possible, just get better, right?
Yeah.
It's like, just be better. And but the only way you can do that is by working on it. And don't bring yourself down for not being where you want to be, but just get better, right?
Be consistent and patient with consistency, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like
exactly.
just
Exactly.
day in, day out,
Mm-hmm.
just work the grind.
Yeah.
Do you see that though? The interesting you said that, I totally agree with you. But do you see that as being a common thread through people who are starting, or do you see why do you say that? Is it just from purely personal experience, or do you see that with other people?
I just noticed a lot of people, especially in the social realm, where, I mean, I've seen this happen quite a lot, where um, algorithmically, we have no control over how social media cooperates with us. And I've seen people who just randomly had a photo go viral,
Yeah.
and then in that moment they decide, oh my gosh, I'm going to be a photographer. And then the algorithm is pushing people their way, and they're getting a lot of engagement. And then all of a sudden that engagement's gone. And then they've quit everything to pursue this thing that they weren't very good at. Um, they had a knack for,
You
like
might be good at it. Yeah.
a natural eye for it. But they weren't professional, for lack of better terms. And now that they've kind of given up everything else to follow this thing, and um, and they're stuck in a tough place because the algorithm isn't treating them the same way that it was before. And I've seen a lot of people have that happen to them. Um, and so it's just like a fair warning,
Mhm.
if not, of like, hey, like, if LeBron James didn't do the amount of training that he has done. I mean, and I don't know if you're familiar with his regime. I mean, it is crazy.
Yeah.
Like, the amount of time, even to this day, that he puts into working out, training, and that he has done for the past 30 years,
I guess to play
to
with his
be
sons.
considered now one of the greatest basketball players who has ever lived. Um, he's not naturally the greatest basketball player. He would he if he didn't train the amount he trained, he would have just been playing street ball, and he might have been naturally good at it. He probably would have been, but not NBA level good at it if he didn't do the amount of training he did. And so there is a reason he is successful as he is. And there is a reason he's one of the greatest of all time, because he put time and effort into training those muscles to do what they need to do. And it's the same with any career. Um, and it doesn't mean that you're going to be LeBron James if you put as much time into it as LeBron James did, because there's a lot of other basketball players that did. He's just who he is. But don't expect to get into the NBA if you're not training for it. And you might not even get in at the end of it. you know?
Same with, I mean, in the same basketball thread, same with Michael Jordan, another one came, but he did have talent. He did have pure raw talent. But how many people you never heard of had the raw talent but didn't put in the work, right?
Well,
We don't hear
exactly.
about
Well,
them.
that's the point, right? Where
Yep.
it's like,
He was the
it's
first
like,
one on the court and the last one off.
look, with photography, I mean, let's be real. Like, anyone can pick up a camera and push a button and point it at something beautiful and push a button, and it's a good photograph. Anybody can take a good photograph. It's not rocket science. It's very easy to do. All you need to learn is like 3 buttons,
Yep.
like exposure, the triangle, right? And anyone with a 50 IQ can do that. So, um, we live or the photography realm is a very easy one to get into, because all you need to do is buy a camera. Very, very easy to get into it. That's why there's so many people that do it, because it's very easy to get into. Um, and and when you become a photographer, you are competing with all of these other people for jobs in a realm that's very easy to get into. And so what sets you apart? Um, why would a company hire you? I think that's a good question to ask yourself. It's like, why would a company hire you? There is, you know, 10,000 photographers in your region. Why is the company going to pick you? And I think that's an important question to ask. And you need to create reasons why. And most of those reasons are going to be within your own skill set and ability to create something that the company wants. And do you have it? Um, when you're competing with all these other people, do you have it more than them? And so it's like that's the thing, right? Um, um, and these aren't these things aren't meant to be said to put yourself down. It's meant to inspire you to be
Yeah.
better. It's
Yeah.
meant to inspire you to become great and be able to have an answer to that question. And if you don't feel like you have an answer for it yet, it's just you haven't spent enough time doing it, because you will. Like, that answer will come. You will, once you become confident in what you do, you will have a reason for the company to hire you. But it takes time.
Was there a moment in your journey that you felt, okay, maybe I've got this now, or maybe I've reached a different level of confidence in being able to deliver what I wanted to deliver?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I would say it was like 4 or 5 years ago when I really found myself in a style that I liked and that I was consistently able to produce at a higher level. Uh, and once I kind of fell into that, I really became more. I stopped comparing myself. I stopped. I stopped being jealous of people around me, or even friends who were succeeding and I wasn't. Um, and I really came. Yeah, I came to a more confident place of, this is what I can do. I know I can do this. And quite and like and I say this in a very non-egotistical way, but it's like, I know I could do this better than the other person. I know it. Just hire me. Like, I know I can do that. And so a lot of that is just, but that confidence only comes from time, and time spent doing it and understanding. Because that's the thing about creativity as well, is it requires understanding. Creativity and understanding only comes through experience. So you have to understand the possibilities of what you can do, And then when you understand those possibilities, the creativity flows because you can really think outside of the box and have an understanding of what you're able to do in those out of the box things.
Yeah. And that comes through experience of failing more than anything else, right? Making them, and that only comes with doing, and that only comes with time. So, all comes down. I think of those moments where maybe not so much, oh, I've got this, but more you look back and go, fuck, I really didn't have it. But like I was really bad before when I thought I was really good.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you
Yeah.
worry, maybe I'm still in that.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. But I think it speaks for it, and that's one really cool thing about having something like Instagram or any sort of platform where you put your work out there, where you just it's a scroll of the finger of where you were a year ago, 2 years ago, and you can and I I look at it more as improvement of like, wow, like I can't believe this is this is how I edited colors, or you know what I mean? And you'll look at that and then you'll find a lot more confidence in the stuff that you're doing now because you can see so much growth in just over and I still find that today um because I love experimenting and I love experimental photography. I can look at something that I tried a year ago versus how I do it now and how it comes so fluidly and be like, wow, like that's a big difference. And so I mean that's just a natural thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think you're an incredible artist.
Thanks.
Please keep doing what you're doing.
I
Keep
appreciate
sharing
it.
it with us. I look forward to seeing the book, and I highly encourage anyone watching to go and obviously see your stuff, but watch your short films. And yeah, I look forward to seeing the next few. Thanks so much for joining. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, man, it's been great.
Cheers.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
the coffee.
You're welcome.